This is section 1.2, domain and range. In this video, we're going to go through number 45 in your book, and in this problem, they're asking us to graph this piecewise function. So piecewise functions can be kind of confusing, but basically all they say is that for all of these x values, in this case for all values where x is less than 2, we're going to follow this function. But as soon as x is greater than or equal to 2, we're going to follow this function here. So the way we're going to graph this is we're going to look at it in pieces. And first, see what our function is doing for these x values, x is less than 2, and then see what it's doing for the next set of x values. So looking at my first values, when x is less than 2, let's say x is negative 1, I'm going to plug this value into my top function. And when I plug in negative 1 into my function, I'll get positive 1. Because remember, absolute value just means everything becomes positive. I could plug in 0, and my output would be 0, plug in 1, output would be 1, and so on. So what this might look like on a graph is, here's x equals 2. At x equals 1, my graph goes up to positive 1, 0, it's at 0. At negative 1, goes up to positive 1. You might remember what an absolute value graph looks like. It's just a V. So I know it's going to look like a V from this side. It's going to look like a V here until I get to x equals 2. So right up until 2, I'm just going to draw an open circle here. My graph is going to follow this first function, absolute value of x. But now we see as soon as x equals or is greater than 2, we're going to follow this function. And we just have a constant here. So whatever we plug in for x, if we were to plug in 2, we'd get 1. If we plug in 3, we get 1. And so on and so on. This is just the function of a straight horizontal line. So at 2, my function is equal to 1, and for every other value after, it's also equal to 1. And that's the graph of this function. Remember to include an open and a closed circle here, because this function is defined as absolute value of x for every point right up until 2, for 1.999 repeating. Until at 2, it's an open circle, and we move down to this function, to x equals 1, or y equals 1. And then from there, it's a closed circle, because at x equals 2, it's defined by this function, and then for every value after, we just follow whatever this function tells us. But that's the graph of f of x. Hope this was helpful. The concepts covered in this video are true no matter what pre-calc class you're in, but in case you're interested, all the problems referenced in this book came from this lovely book right here. Remember that if you're a Baylor student, we offer free tutoring on the first floor of Sid Rich. You can either make an appointment or drop in whenever you're available to get tutoring in pre-calc, calculus, and a bunch of other subjects as well. Feel free to visit our website for more information.